Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another Cosmonarchy cast. We are continuing our saga, our journey through the lower bracket. And this is, of course, Gauntlet Stage B, the penultimate stage wherein which you can qualify to the main stage, the battlement stage, and perhaps from then on, the throne room stage. Very cool to see these two players here for their first ever Acropolis qualification opportunity. It's Sosij in the top left as our vivid red Protoss, and on the bottom right it's Grass as our dark green Zerg. Yep, okay. This is a problem and very annoying, as you can see. This is unreasonable. I did tell Grass to not do that, like when I adminned a match of his in, I think it might have been Gauntlet Stage. Was it A? I can't remember. I guess he either forgot or maybe I'm getting some things wrong in my head. I know I told him to not do that, but some other admin must not have, and maybe he forgot. Anyway, great. You get this little doohickey, but now I got to look at this random floating word in the middle of my screen. Well, I don't think Grass will do this, but if you want to aid and abate my sorrows, you can donate via the Ko-fi page. For as low as $3 a month, you get to dictate the weekly focus on content, or at least cast your vote alongside everybody else. So if you're looking to focus on a particular task that's been requested or that is on the docket, right now people have been really gaming with regards to playing a lot of, what would you say? They want to play the Sosij, you know, so that's definitely been a key detail there. Definitely something that I want to take a look at, and that's been what I've been working on with donor streams, which you get access to at $12 a month or higher. But for only $3 a month, you do get to vote. So I highly recommend doing that. I'll continue working on pretty much everything that's on the poll for voting, sporadically. But here we are, and the focus for at least 2 days out of the week is always going to be whatever gets the highest tallies on the vote. I hope you guys appreciate that and enjoy that, and tune into those streams if you can, if you have access to them. And that's pretty much where we're at. So just want to plug that real quick and give you guys what's going on. So Sosij did put down a cheeky pylon, but he canceled it at the last second. And now he's got a Warden in the mineral line, having gone 2-gate into Drac. We did get I think there was like a single pair of Rilla Road cores. I guess they must have been canceled. And now the Zets are going to try to run in, see if they can't isolate and kill off one of the Draconans. Actually, in theory, 5 Zethar cores could still kill more. But it does look like they are going to escape, all with their lives, actually. Only losing 3 Zeths for 1 Draconan is super cost-efficient for Zerg. He does have a big amount of money in the bank, though. So Grass is going to go down with the Zork. Going to go ahead and put that one down. A couple of Droleths on the way. And a couple of Quasas. Well, it looks like it's soon to be expansion time. I do like that Sosij is canvassing the area here. Presumably he was on attack move. Yeah, looks like it. And that was so that if he ran into any burrowed units, when you move over them with a ground unit in Cosmonarchy, you reveal their position. And so if you're on attack move and your unit moves over a burrowed unit, it will automatically attack it. We've done away with that weird code where if you take damage as a burrowed unit, the burrowed unit forcibly unburrows. That no longer happens. So you don't have to worry about like, oh, I guess it didn't happen to Lurkers in StarCraft 1. You don't have to worry about Lake is doing that here. Looks like he was going to try to start taking his aggression out on a power generator. We love to see that. It has been deathly hot here in Massachusetts. I feel like my room in particular is at like 90 degrees on the regular. So I will most likely be turning on my fan for between maps here. But this is, of course, map 1 Crisis Vector. We do have some static defense. Well, that's actually a lot of money invested into the static defense. And this feels a little bit prohibitive there. 19 Zethar cores on the way. Of course, ready to flank this position as the Quas are starting to be heckled. And here comes the humongous flank. Very well set up here, it must be said, by Grass, committing the Draconans to the fight to see how much damage they can incur. Now they're going to fight their way through all the Quas and maybe see if they can do anything else. But the Lakers are out, the Zoryus are out. Feels like this really shouldn't be a possibility. He's giving him a little bit more economic, what would you say, efficiency by speeding up the Droleths when the Zoryus are around. That's very cute. He has, of course, flubbed his army control everywhere else. I don't know what's going on here. Really needs to unburrow those Droleths so he can start using them again. And Sosij is also kind of like over-microing this a little bit, but he also was able to put down an Ardent and, you know, queue up some more units out of his gateways, keep his money kind of low. The Droleths are still not mining. Grass has really bungled this. I don't know why he doesn't just do anything but that. You know what I mean? That should have been a slam dunk win for Grass, but instead, Sosij actually turned that into a pretty solid position, delaying his opponent's economic development by quite a bit. And yeah, I guess Grass kind of realizes he slipped there with his micro, so he's going to go ahead and drop the typing. Now, the Lakes can deal with these Wardens pretty easily. There is no detection here. So there's still a pretty good chance for Grass to just kind of shove on through with all of the combat units he has. He does have one Droleth heading to the natural, so it looks like he will be taking his expansion. Makes a lot of sense. Now we've, of course, got the Nexus running up here, so both players going to have their expand. Oh, okay, double Embassy on the way. So I think Sosij wants to go for that Artisan style. The problem that I have with this is that I really think he's very light on military. Obviously, in theory, the Wardens are supposed to help him with that. I think he might be in for a rude awakening, boys. Got an engram in the mineral line, which I don't really like for mineral efficiency, but it's not terrible. This really does feel like if Grass decides to pull the trigger on this attack, he's just going to absolutely overwhelm this position. First Warden gets popped by the combined might of all those Lakes. The Zets tear into everything else, and there's only 4 Dracodons here. Is he making a Positron? It looks like he wanted to maybe do Positron drop for the worker count. The problem is he had no idea that Grass could just decide to storm the gates. And so it looks like, despite being the higher seed in this series, Sosij is about to incur a loss on his own map pick. Look at all them scribe kills, baby! Yeah, that's a wrap. He is making a couple of witnesses, but he has no army with which to actually save himself in. Damn it, GG indeed. And that will be it for Sosij in the first map. Hey, that was pretty solid. Honestly, I wasn't expecting Grass's counterpunch. Well, I guess I would just point out that not every player knows that that is even a possibility. Now, I didn't necessarily expect Sosij to kind of go unit light. I think he definitely was overconfident in the presence of the Wardens. If one of those Wardens had been a Bulwark, there's a possibility that he gets a little bit of a hold there, but I think really he needed like Zealot Ecclesiast, or at least Zealots, to try to stay alive and buy some time for his Dracodon so they didn't have to micro them. Also, going for an Acantor would have been a safer insurance policy, I think, against that, instead of going for the Positrons. And, you know, double Embassy when you have so few resources, or so few units, rather. Definitely a risky strategy. Nonetheless, Grass takes the first match here. Oh, actually, I did say that Sosij was the higher seed. Technically, that's not true. He was, you know, I would say it's very easy to say that Sosij is unproven here. Grass actually seed number 4 coming into this one. So he takes the first round, and we go on to game number 2. Let's see. All right, homies, we are getting into game number 2, and we are on Kingwa Valley for it. This is technically Grass Eater's map pick here, but Sosij is down 1-0 in the set, and he's probably looking to punch back nice and early. He's in the top right. This is some kind of off orange. I'm just going to guess orange. It was just orange. It looks like a brighter color. Anyway, he's Protoss, of course. Bottom left, we have the dark green. No, forest green this time around. Zerg. I guess the name color should have been a dead giveaway, but it was all the way over there in the mid left. What the hell? So I couldn't read it, you know. It's just how it is. Let's take a look at the map veto. We didn't do that in the previous map. So we have here Crisis Vector, our opener. Of course, Check Stealer getting banned. No surprises there. Decapitation. Okay. I mean, I see the bans already, and it's all the 4-spawn map. So I guess Sosij... I think I read it somewhere that he says that playing 4-spawn maps is like playing a different game. And a lot of people do feel that way. Of course, if you make it into the Battlement stage, you don't always have control of what map you're picking. You know what I mean? So just hope that you're in with like-minded crowds, I suppose. Kingwa Valley, of course, up next. And then we have Radium as our 3rd map. If we need more than that, Near Impact will be our 4th. And Serenity will decide things, should we go to a Game 5. I'm actually trying to remember now. We had loads of Game 5s in the Tribunal stage, but inside the, in the, what do you call it? You know, the good one, the Gauntlet stages. There you go. I don't actually know if we've had any. It's kind of surprising, right? I'll take a quick look here while we're waiting for this set to go, as we do have an embassy pretty fast compared to the last round. And Grass only now going to have his pool popping. So could see maybe some action here from Sosij. Not going to happen, though. And yeah, I mean, all of the qualification series, except for the Shambler versus Arbuz Budesh back in Gauntlet Stage A, were avoided the potential for there being a 5-game series, you know, a decider required. How silly am I to forget that Arbu's Shambler set was indeed a game 5. For some reason, I thought that was in the Tribunal stage. I don't know what's wrong with me, guys. But yeah, we didn't have any such action in the upper qualifier here at Gauntlet Stage B. I tell you what, maybe this will be the first time. Grass versus Sosij. The Zethicors are at the gates, but this time with Zealot Ecclesiast. Not going to be nearly as efficient, powering on through with the Zeths. So he has to fall back there. One reason why Drax are not super good versus Zethicors is because they just overkill them, right? And so that high cooldown but high damage means that they really don't have the greatest way to deal with units that they're going to overkill. You could try to like microing them a lot, but it's just not the same as just using Zealot Ecclesiast and kind of walking over them. So the Witness is here very quickly. I think early Witness play is most susceptible to like Hydra busts, you know? If you're going to go for a Hydra Den as your second tech node, and your opponent has gone for Embassy into Witness, especially if they double down and make more stuff out of the Embassy, in this case we do have an Envoy, it feels like it's one of those things where you can just make a lot of Hydras, and they just don't have enough units. It's kind of like what happened at the end of that last game, but they are insulated against more technical plays because they have the detection, right? So I'm just kind of looking at that, thinking to myself, man, Sosij is pretty vulnerable here if it was a Hydrith, but instead it is Zorkis again. It's going to be a triple Zealot drop. That's actually as many as you can fit in an Envoy in Cause Monarchy, partially because Envoys don't have any upgrades that they require, so they just move as fast as they do, speed of almost 6.5, which is not as fast as the Vulture, I think, but pretty fast. They do so without it needing any upgrades, right? And so, you know, just kind of clamping them down there. Zealots are also really tanky. So you can see here, Grass immediately reacting with his resources, but it's Zealots. You know, they actually shouldn't be able to get too much done here. Oh, he actually just brought his Ovolith back and almost sniped that Witness, but it was not to be. The Envoy is struggling. It only has 1 armor, so Quas actually do full damage to it. Quas have 1 armor pen. It's always worth pointing that one out. I guess he tried to drop on top of this... I don't know what's going on here, actually. Why did he drop on top of the Lakers? Well, back at home, he is making an Acantor. That will be presumably what gets dropped afterwards. Artisans are now on the field, at least a single one. Grass can expand pretty easily here. The Ovolith was witnessing the Witness this whole time, detecting it, but it ends up escaping with no trouble. Here comes the Zealot. Drop micro out of the Zealot. I can't believe it. He almost drops that one, but at the end of the day, it stays alive. Beautiful. Zeth's not able to do it. It looks like Grass is content to just play a little bit slower. He's got a lot of minerals in the bank. I'd love to see him go ahead and put down a couple of hatches, since it's not like he can really get a lot of Vespene right now. If he wanted to try to step into that, he could always, of course, cap his Ridge, or maybe preemptively cap the natural Ridge if he didn't want any downtime in the economy. But it looks like he's going for another Larvosk. I really don't like that. If this is anti-drop defense, that's one thing. You know, it's justifiable. Got an Acantor and a Zealot here. It kind of reminds me of PVT drops in StarCraft 1. You always want an accompanying unit there. You don't want the Acantor alone. It's a little bit too easy to deal with and isolate. Even just one Zealot can really help out. So we do have a slight, I guess you could call it a dyad of Witnesses, and it's a lot of extra embassies on the way. Drop is thinking about it, but instead it's just going to go straight for where all the workers are. And looks like that Larvosk is indeed what is going to be there. Ooh, right in the Droleth! He got him right in the Droleth, guys! Oh, man, 5 kills already. That's going to be 7. So this is already working pretty well. Grass can make a bunch of Droleths out of his larva if he so desires. Stray units really helping out there. Of course, the one Zealot does end up getting bopped. Still not mining. Really still not mining for a very long period of time. And the Acantor can thin the herd in ways that other units for Protoss simply cannot. A couple of these kills end up being Quas. Again, 7 workers killed so far, and more effectively killed because there's just nothing here mining right now. He's literally got 0 workers mining. I can't believe it. So the Acantor, it's not able to outlast infinitely. It, again, only has 1 armor, just like the Envoy, so Quas do deal full damage to it. Really got to watch out for the Dancing here. He's trying it. Here comes some Nathricors, though, and, you know, you can try to, you know, skip away all you want, but those Naths are going to be heat-seeking missiles. Technically, they move a little bit slower than the Envoy, but if it ever makes a turn, that's a wrap. How far back is it going to go? Looks like all the way. Oh, no, they caught out to it. I don't know exactly how that happened, but I like to imagine they started drafting on each other like NASCAR and then eventually spopped them. Look at that. The embassy is now in the middle of the base. Oh, don't you love to see that? Well, there's still a double Acantor out here. A little bit regrettable that Sosij couldn't save that one. Oh, as he's done the cardinal sin of not making a pylon, and then you get... Well, he did make a pylon down here, but not making a pylon to actually add production to. So you just get absolutely devastated because of it. That just makes me smile, you know? We don't actually have detection here. Sosij would need to pull back his witnesses. Looks like he's going to do so now. But this is a bit of a timer for Grass to see what he can do. A lot of Zealots. Lakes are a natural, you know, opponent to that. Not that much anti-air. If the Nathricors could stand on top of the Acantors, that would be really helpful here. But it does look like that was just an utter devastation. The Acantors wiping. And it didn't really help that the Hierophants were able to get their ascension off. Finally, the expand will come out. But I don't think Grass actually moved up here to see that the Artisans were pulling their weight. This is sort of like, I mean, it's been Sosij's economy in terms of who's favored on the economic side. It's definitely been Sosij. A witness does go down, so that's a little bit of sort of black eye there, you could say, blinding him just a bit. Plenty more artisans being made in the meanwhile. A little bit of mineral saturation here. Only 12 workers on minerals in the main. Comparable amount, yeah, 8 in the natural, so a little bit more than one base of mineral income for Grass, but definitely needs to tighten that one up, I'll tell you that much. I'll tell you that for free. But if you want anything else, yeah, the commentary goes quiet until you pay on coffee, obviously. That's the way that would go. Finally, the Hydra's den on the way. I think at this point you really need to start considering Bactylisks or Tier 2. And I don't know if you can hold this Protoss ground army. I guess with enough Lakes, you could keep them kind of grounded. But it really feels like you need... Maybe Gorgs? Gorgs would probably work okay here. Mass Avaleth and just drop on top of them, you know, that could also work. Maybe in your dreams. Lakers are going to go ahead and burrow, but they take a lot of damage to the face and immediately unburrow. I don't know what Grass is doing with the unburrow. He would have at least killed a couple of units if he had left them burrowed, but yeah. He's just going to go ahead and say GG. He knows his army is toast, and that is a wrap. Sosij back on the board. Didn't take him too long to answer back after that unceremonious execution in the previous match. That means we go on to game number 3. Let's see what's behind door number 3. Radium coming up at you. And we are back for game number 3 between Grass Eater and Sosij. Sosij is in the bottom left of Radium as our Vivid Red Protoss. And Grass is in the top right. I think he's dark greens. No, it's forest green again. Damn. If only that was aligned. I could compare it to this. A little bit easier. Or if only I was just better at recognizing that tone. Anyway, we are here. Just talking. Just talking about Cosmonarchy. It's not quite a Cosmonarchy podcast. These have been pretty aggressive games. I do like that Sosij adapted with the Fast Witness so that he could figure out what his opponent was doing. But I also think that Grass, he's kind of been dining out on this Lakes push. And if that doesn't work because you got Acantors or you have Zealot Ecclesiast in enough numbers that you don't immediately die, stuff like that, it does feel like Grass needs to start going back to the drawing board. Now, he's only lost one map, right? It's 1-1. So still plenty of depth to go for here in this series. As a reminder, Crisis Vector, our first map, Kingo Valley, our second. We go to Serenity to decide things if we need to. We go to Near Impact for our next map, which we are going to need since both players have scored. It will not be a blowout. The upper qualification matches were all 3-0s, 3-0s, even though I did kind of feel like, you know, they should have been maybe there's a couple that could have maybe done a little bit differently. I do think that Shopkeeper Dog was just like, by far and away, like the most favorite to make it out of this set here, out of the tournament, and get himself back into battlements, you know? And I didn't necessarily think that Sosij would be able to put up much of a fight. I do think, though, that playing against a Terran like that is really good experience for him. Maybe that equips him to you know, it's translating your skill set against Zerg is completely different, but I also think that Grass is like a step below Shopkeeper Dog. I mean, they're different rankings, right? Grass is class 3, Dog is class 2. So Grass is definitely, I would say, winnable. You know, Sosij has a chance in this one. We saw the kind of blueprint for it. 2-gate into a fast embassy. This time he's going for that Warden in the mineral line, and he's actually gone for Legionnaires. That's kind of interesting. We don't really see Legionnaires pop up that often. And so when they do, it's a nice little surprise, in my opinion. I guess we've been seeing them a lot more in Protoss versus Protoss these days. You can see Grass trying to micro out so he can kill a worker with his Zeth. So we love to see that. And here come the Legionnaires. You can absolutely win this fight with Legionnaires, you know. It's way more resources invested on the Protoss' side, so it would be a bit whack if you couldn't. Although I guess if you had this many Ecclesiasts, the Zeths might actually kill you. I don't know, probably not, but they might be, you know, fairly cost efficient. Anyway, Grass is going to go ahead and burrow those around the 3rd. Radium, a port of, or a redo, a refresh, if you will, of Axiom. Both of them by Biddy B. Pylon at the ramp. This feels like an old school game. Ardent Authority coming. The one Zethar Core just heckling. Not able to do any visceral damage. Only breaks the shields of that one Legionnaire. I was thinking recently how, oh, he's actually going to just stumble upon them. That's very cute. I was thinking recently how maybe when your shields break for Protoss, it could be interesting if that would trigger certain effects. Or maybe it's like you have flash shielding kick in after 2 seconds, but if your shields all the way break, as a bit of a reward for the player who broke them, you have the shields kind of take a bit longer to start regenerating. Something like that. You know, just a flash shielding update, I guess you could say, but making it about the binary tag of did you pierce them or not, you know, did you break them. It's kind of interesting for certain burst units, but it's probably maybe a little bit too heavy-handed in general. Zeths could get some damage here. Those Wardens are going to warp in at, I guess, the best possible opportunity to stop this, because one of them will indeed have to get canceled, but the other one will be able to fend off these Zethar Cores. This is not, you know, cracklings versus photon cannons. The Warden's a little bit beefier, and the well, the Zeths don't have the crackling upgrade because the Zerglings, you know, Zergling equivalent in StarCraft or in Cosmonarchy, it does not have upgrades in general, so you're not going to see that. Feels like maybe he could have just walked right through, but he would have just scouted everything else. Now, does he know that there's an Ardent Authority coming? Does he know that there's an embassy already here? Don't know. That's something that he's going to have to figure out. Another thing worth pointing out here, the Artisans did come out in the previous game. We are going to see them again this time around, and I did say are going to see. I didn't say Argosy. Argosy is pretty good, but I don't think we're going to see Argosy. Just fucking confuse everybody who's not a native English speaker, and most of them who are. We do have the Envoy scooping out with that Acantor. No Zealot with it this time, but very few units are actually sitting here to counter the drops. Hydra's then very fast this time around. I like that. The Zorkas still went down, but you know, that we were actually just there for the Zorius and a couple Lakes. So this is green light for Sosij to go. The problem is there's Wardens, but not really any Acantor, right? He's only making the Positron. I don't know if Grass knows this, but he has a really good green light to attack. Like the Acantor, yeah, it's going to do some stuff, right? But you go here. You absolutely go here and see what you can do. The Wardens are being assembled at the front line. And it looks like, unfortunately for Grass Eater, he has hemmed and hawed a little bit too much. Needs to pull those 6 Quas towards that Envoy. He's going to commit to the fight. If he wins this decisively, it doesn't really matter what happens back at home. But he's not burrowing the Lakes. Okay, now he is, but they're right on top. The Legionnaires just pounce on it immediately. That's a lot of the DPS that Grass had afforded to himself. It looks like back at home, the Acantor hasn't actually killed so many units. The Envoy's been warded off. But over here, I mean, this attack is held. And that could have been so much better here for Grass. Those Wardens wouldn't have finished in theory. He could have maybe sniped the pylon. He had 2 Lakers not even in the fight that whole time. Oh, God. The Acantor was felled. We didn't get to see quite how many workers died, but it looks like only maybe 5 or 6. I see another one by the Larvosk here. The 2 and 4. So, yeah, we're going to say that was 6 worker frags. No real economic damage dealt to Sosij. I guess you're forcing him to make more static defense, even though it feels like there's limited efficacy for that. Hydras are starting to be massed up. Okay, it's not as dreadful of a situation as I thought it would be for Grass, and he is going to go for the Vornath. He can grab those Nathril cores and, you know, just kind of bop the Envoys. The follow-up drop could be deadly, but it also is in an Envoy with 40 HP and 40 shields, you know, so realistically speaking, I know Hydras don't have any armor pen, but that's still like, what, 10 Hydra shots and it's dead? It's pretty easy. Now, that being said, the Hydras are leaving the building. This is a blind attack from Grass, even though he knows he did not kill the Envoy. And he has no combat units on the way. So these Positrons are going to start to do some damage. He does hit the stop key. So at least he gets rid of them without doing too much. But look at the minimap. He is not recalling his units. He's not really doing hardly anything. He's making Nathril cores. The problem is the Nathril cores will just blow up to all of the Positrons as well. His army has not been recalled during this, and there's Zealots and Wardens and not even a Nexus on the way. This feels like a really big missed opportunity for Grass Eater. I do think that he could have tried to capitalize on this situation, but now it feels hopeless. There's not even a Nexus to cancel here. And the Lakers are just running in. Oh, man. The Nathril cores come out. They will actually pick the Positrons, but he doesn't even call GG. He just concedes right then and there. You know, there's a small chance that would still have been playable because he has the Nathril cores, and the Nathril core is able to deal with the Positrons, stay alive, and maybe start hunting down Artisans. I'm not even sure he knew that Artisans were actually on the field, by the way, but, you know, that's what you would use the Nathril cores for. However, I totally understand after everything that happened, feeling like you missed your window. I just got to go to the next game. Hopefully he's not too tilted for our game 4. It could be our last one. Sosij could be finishing things up here and getting into battlements. And his first ever attempt, of course he's a Protoss player. How else would you think it goes? It's going to go to near impact for this. Will Grass Eater save us from the curse of not having any best of 5s? Go all 5? Will he continue his quest to get into battlements? Or will it be Sosij to qualify forward? That's what I want to know. That's the question I'm asking. Vivid Red Protoss once again in the bottom right of near impact. That's Sosij. Grass in the top left is the forest green Zerg. Going for his Kagrant as per usual. Looks like he'll be going for that Larvosk. And we'll see what happens here. Guys, I have been thinking long and hard about Cosmonarchy. I've been doing a lot of work on things behind the scenes. And it would really please me to eventually have, you know, the Escozy in such a state that by the time we get to the Throne Room Finals, we're able to maybe have a cheeky little show match that features the Escozy. I can't make any promises because who knows what's going to happen in the middle of that, but it should be like mid-July, I think. It's a possibility that we could make that happen. So anyway, just wanted to point that out. The 4th race looms. Should definitely be playable by the end of the year, and that means that Acropolis number 4, which is supposed to be also towards the end of the year, that might very well be the first time the Escozy are playable. I'm just going to point that out. Get hyped, boys. Get hyped. It's going to be 2 gate into MSC. Once again, going for the Legionnaires. It looks like that's how Sosij wants to play things. Scribe navigating towards the opposite side. All he's going to end up seeing is the pretty bog standard pool build order. Not really anything too significant here. Kagrant Larvosk pool into a second Larvosk. He's harvesting the Vespene. We'll see if he stays on it. It wouldn't immediately tell us much if he decided to stay on it, because we are talking about a difference of like, okay, you've got the Vespene, and then are you going to go for a Hydra then, or are you going to go for the Lakis? But I'd love to see him skip the Zorkas, or at least do it like later on. If he gets the Shroud as his 3rd tech structure, that makes a lot of sense. If he ends up getting it as the, you know, the 2nd again, you know, right after the pool, it just doesn't feel like that's working for him. So it'll tell us a lot about Grass's mentality. Like, does he have something prepped? Does he have something queued up? Is he thinking about it from the perspective of, I just need to do a little bit better on the execution than I did last time, and then maybe I'm in a good spot? He could convince me he had a very winning situation in terms of the military fight, partially because Sosij overcompensated on the on a lot of the static defense, so did not work out. The Zeth attack also not working out. The Legionnaires a little bit too good at accepting it, and it will not be either of the 2 options I mentioned. He's going straight to the Vornath pawn. So I think what he might be thinking is, Fast Nathocores for the drop defense. Can also hunt down those artisans, right? Good option there. Love that Sosij is making a pylon because that will actually allow him to put an Ardent down over here without trapping his units. And yeah, overall, it feels like Nathocores are a good choice here. He knows that he's going to probably get dropped a lot. He knows that this is the artisan map. You look at the corners of the situation here. You got all this island bases, and we have quad embassy. Sosij being super greedy. Maybe the Naths are exactly what the doctor ordered. 2 pairs of them on the way. The gas, of course, going to be a deciding factor here. Grass can take his expand and will start to. Okay. Very good. I think the Zets are going to start to put the pieces together, you know. I'm assuming he heard that at the natural, that indeed there was some cheeky remote harvesting. It's also worth pointing out those Zets have really small vision range even when burrowed, or when unburrowed. They still feel like they have a very small vision range, so he might not have actually seen the Artisan do that thing. Double harvesting from the Vespene over here as well, same kind of story at the 3 o'clock position. More Zets kind of pouring out here. Feels like these could be workers, but we shall see. Finally, a witness on the way for Sosij. And, of course, he has that Warden at the ramp. Doesn't want to go for the Ardent just yet, nor the Nexus. We do have some Vorvs, which I think it makes sense to incorporate when you have access to them. They're pretty good at stopping gateway move-outs, but they do need some support. They can't actually kill the gateway units on their own. And at this point, we've got Omega Artisans here. You know, there's 8 Artisans in the natural, plus the 2 over here, harvesting Vespene. That Legionnaire shouldn't really get too far out there. Qua's not yet scrambled. Kagrant, anti-drop defenses on the way. And it is indeed going to be the Zorka's follow-up. The Nathocor is kind of doing a little dance over there. It's a mating ritual or something. Beckoning them back to the pond for some bathing. A couple pylons coming on down here. A little bit of a trifecta. The Bermuda Triangle of pylons for Sosij. It's really funny his name is Sosij. Apparently he doesn't even eat sausage that much. Of course, his username on Discord includes the word Lord, Sausage Lord, but he decided it's better to call himself Sosij for the tournament itself. All right, so we have even more pylons, and of course, Quad Warden, no Nexus, because why have that Nexus when you've got all of these Artisans? I'm not quite sure what Grass Eater's idea here is. He's got a lot of minerals in the bank yet again. Ardent now developing, a second one actually on the way. Got the Positrons already out. No Envoy yet, so it looks like it's just going to be a more straightforward move out. But we'll keep tabs on that as time goes on. When you see the Circuit here, you're not going to be that put off by the idea of dropping. You can still do a lot of damage. But when you see these Nathocores, you might start to think a little bit. Think twice about it, right? But it indeed will be an Envoy. So it looks like the Positrons are meant for that, as opposed to for the core army. If I had to tell you who I like in this situation, I think Zerg has the way more tools. The Nathocores have not been proactive about stopping Artisans and forcing units. So that's a big error in my opinion. But Grass has more tools than Sosij does, I think, in order to make this happen, you know? He's making his Hydrith Den, which is great. He's already got a bunch of Lakas, which, you know, versus the ground army, it can be pretty good. He can overwhelm the Wardens here really easily, even with the Engram assistance. I don't know what the pylon was there for exactly, but the Zeth is unburrowed. Artisan will try to pick it apart there as the seated ends up going down. Sending out the Zethicores looking for those Artisans. Nothing over there on those side bases. He sees these ones at 3 o'clock. Lake is on the way. More Nathocores on the way. Hydrith Den is done. Not really a whole lot of income here. 7 Droleths on the way to try to saturate that third base, which makes a lot of sense. Grass is keeping up to base, up to speed on the economy. Witness is going to spot this army out. These pylons can get brought down pretty easily. 2 Positrons leaving the building here. I don't know why he's dropping them like that. That feels like a dangerous gambit, actually. First of the Lakas should be popping down here relatively quickly. There it is, the Warden from the high ground helping out, thanks to the Witness for detection. Looks like those Positrons are going to be drawing a couple of the Lakis finds. That's working out pretty nicely for him, but now he drops in the middle of the fire line. I'm not sure that was so good. Still more Lakis are here. He pops most of the static defense. Just the Warden and the Engram left on the low ground. Nathicors are kind of abound, but they just get gutted by the Positrons and the Ecclesiasts, of course, helping to keep everybody alive in the process. And now we've got Hydras for the more vaunted, steady backline. The Envoy is empty. Of course, Grass won't know that. At this point, this is where you start thinking about those witnesses, right? You really want to start thinking about getting them up to speed. Oh, that's 2 Positrons down the drain. No opportunity there at all. Really could start hunting down that 3 o'clock position, as the 4th base is now going down for Grass. Feels like those Sosij artisans here really should be easily swatted out of the sky, right? Like the Hydras can just go force the issue. More Lakis plus detection would be good. It looks like he wants to go Bactalisk instead. A couple of Nathicors have been made, so you know you can sick them on the artisans there. It's a great choice. Witness kind of following the army around, no Avaleth in sight, so unlikely Grass will ever rid himself of that plague, but if he gets rid of the detection for Sosij, the Lakis can do so much work. As of right now, they're kind of getting run up on, shooed away by the Positrons and the Ecclesiast. And here come the Nathicors, which are helpfully decolliding. I think they are following each other, honestly. What the fuck? Alright, well, there's a big army fight happening in the meanwhile. That's very funny. Cantor's getting mulched immediately. Looks like a couple of the artisans are indeed going to get aggroed back there. And the Positrons are able to help out. The Hydras might end up falling to the Engram. You do have to give him some grace. Feels like with some Zeth Vorv or what have you, that might be a good option. He's realizing, wait a second, I didn't actually tell them to attack. There you go. Easy. Blind Nath. Oh, okay. Maybe that is the... Maybe it's even worse now. I don't know. I'm pretty sure when you're on patrol or whatever, or attack move, they actually do stuff, but... Far be it from me. That's alright. Grass was busy focusing on everything else. He is saturating his own 9 o'clock position, his counter position to this, as he denies his opponent. We've got double prostration stage and a crucible. Big mineral bank here for Sosij. He's just going to start adding gateways. Makes sense. It does feel like over here, what we're really lacking is some way to bust the engram, right? And so that's where Bactalisks can come in. They can also really run roughshod over the Cantors and the Positrons and the like. But Grass is moving out at a great time. And where's the response? The Lakis and the Gorgs are kind of all out of the middle of nowhere. No, it doesn't cancel any of the Bactalisks. Just uses the Hydras to try to melch through those. And here come the Gorgs. They're going to take some good damage from the Positrons, but they'll also dish it back. They're kind of targeting the Cantors here. Not exactly what I would like to see, because if the Positrons go down, well, the Gorgocores can have a field day with the Cantors easily enough. So both of them go down, both of the Cantors, that is. Wounded Gorgs kind of shoot off. One of the Positrons barely staying alive. Looking pretty dire here. We might actually get our 5th game after all. Another saturation attempt at 9 o'clock. We got Sycophants coming. Try to keep the shields up, topped up. A lot of Gorgs did end up going down earlier. The witnesses are just kind of stacked up here. Sosij just forgotten about them, lost track of them. 15 Zoryus, and he still has 1,300 minerals, dude. I don't know where his money is coming from, but I suppose that's what happens when you got 4 bases, you know. Not a shy or sly amount of Gorgocores and Bactalisks on the way either. Finally, those witnesses fanning out. Give him a little bit of info, but when you see so many Zerg units running at you, what even is your repose? What even is your adjustment? No pariahs? Just sycophants? Well, they're pretty tanky. Bactalisks do have a bit of a weakness there. The armor rend from the Zoryus will help out. It's the Zoryus spawning the Rillarocores cores that explode, that kind of thing. There's a lot of Gorgs out, though. And I know he's got some splash damage here, but even quintuple Positron doesn't quite feel like it'll be enough. He is making 2 more. Many more workers coming down to the 5th base for Grass. He's also adding a 6th up here at 12 o'clock. Wants to see if about maybe attacking, but if he loses his army, he's going to have to sack a couple of bases. Now, here comes the Zoryus to try to speed things up. Going right on top of all of the Positrons there. That's the Gorg's task, but there's so many of them stacked up, it feels like that's a really big mistake from Grass Eater. He's going to lose every single Gorg and not even break the Warden in there. There's an engram to stop the mineral line from being endangered. Finally, this one at the front on the low ground will almost assuredly be brought down. Maybe not, though. The Sycophant's helping out quite marvelously to keep its shields going. And there's not really anything here. This lake has stayed burrowed the whole time. Not that they would have necessarily shifted everything. But those Gorgs, man, they could have split up completely differently. We've got the Mine Tyrants out with the Positrons. That could be really big if the army actually is able to kill anything. Double Mine Tyrant is not what I had on my bingo card, but the Sycophants are helping out. I really was surprised to see that Engram stay alive. I think Sycophants might be an underrated unit. They were pretty bad for a while, so wouldn't surprise me if Protoss just were undervaluing them. The lake is going to go ahead and burrow. Get a little bit of damage dealt. You know, the Gorgs can try to sick on top of the Mine Tyrants, but you do have to watch out for that. Talk about Maelstrom. I think it has the old Yamato bug where it tracks the position, but it tracks the unit, but it should be hitting on the position of impact. Anyway. Positrons are out there. Big Maelstrom to slow things down. And now the big change of ownership is going to start happening. Oh, the Gorgs went down. Oh my god. Well, they do take double damage, or 50% extra damage, so they're kind of just chaff right now. But where's the casualties on the side of Sosij? It doesn't really feel like he has many, and he's now converting so many of the Hydras. No front line for the Bacthylisks. All the Zorius end up going down. There's not really any damage versus all the armor, right? That's the big problem here. Ironically, I think if he was using Mass Hydra or something, it might have been better. But at this point, I mean, this is Tier 3 technology being leveraged at its finest. And Grass is still on Tier 1. He technically has gotten Tier 2. He's getting a bunch of other stuff up, but this is really dangerous, man. He's got a lot of idle workers up there at 12 o'clock. Not that having more money right now will necessarily help him, making 28 Zoryus. He really wants to try to grab a bunch of Ultra Cores, see if they can out-sustain all the damage that's incoming. God damn. I think it's going to be a little bit too much here. Well, hold on. I mean, there's still all those Zoryus that have to get down the ramp or try to. I feel like they're just going to get turned into hostile assets, though. Only now is the Ultrav Cavern about to finish, and even then, it's still got a little bit of ways to go. Oh, man. There's way too many. The Hydras can't shoot through that much, and there's no artillery anymore to bring down the Mine Tyrants. If the Bacthylisks are still here, they can focus them down because Sosij is not protecting them. 2 bases. Yeah, Grass is definitely tilted. I mean, he's had the Artisans for a while, but yeah, this is technically 3. Yeah, there you go. Classic move. Grass even knows which ID to say to make it so that it's not allowed. Anyway, I think that's a wrap. So, Sosij, despite the hash, is indeed going to take this game. That is a wrap. He will qualify to Battlements off the back of a lovely Positron Mine Tyrant combo. I can't wait to hear what the Valence Peanut Gallery is going to say about this one. I was going to say the Balance Council, but that's a literal thing in StarCraft 2 that we do not have. All right, Sosij is going to take it. A very entertaining game, different style for sure. Glad that we got that cheeky decider in there. Let me know in the comments if you think Protoss is fair and balanced, and I will see you guys for another cast. We got one more qualification set to go on the other side of the bracket, so let's see. We got one more player joining us, and I'm very excited to find out who it is with all of you. The Battlement stage has yet to be decided. Even after this next series that we're going to cast, there's still 4 more slots to be decided, to be filled in. So join us for Gauntlet Stage C. Action continues, but yeah, one more game out of B. One more game out of B. We'll see you there.